Look, let me throw this to you guys, to you, Tom. Guna Rican TV says he can't just win any trophy. It has to be a major. Now, I don't know if the Cronkies and Berta have a massive say as much as we think in this. I think they should, and I think they probably will have. But I had a bit of a back and throw last night about the League Cup, funny enough, because I said that as long as Mikel Arteta wins a trophy and takes Liverpool or City, whoever is the we think might win the league if we are to come second. If we take them right to the last game week 38, and we do win the League Cup, then I would keep Mikel Arteta for another year. And that's coming from me, who's not been a massive lover of him and believes in him as much as some. Everybody that I've spoken to has said that's a disgrace. It's nowhere near enough. Arsenal should be sacked for that. It's an awful season. Rah, rah, rah. So we had a bit of a to and fro last night. Of course, this is rival fans. And to be fair, a lot of Arsenal fans have said it in the chat that if we win the FA Cup or the League Cup, then he's got to go because it's not enough. And we didn't wait.
Do you know what it is, Dan? It's
go on.
To say that the League Cup is not enough is a perfectly legitimate opinion to have.
Yeah.
But the problem is that there's some people who say that because they believe that the team is capable of more. Yeah. And they're coming from a good place and they're saying the League Cup is not enough because this team was built for more than that.
Like Simon just said that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But what it does is winning a trophy, whatever trophy is, it weeds out all the people that are not saying it for the right reasons and are just trying to push their idea. And if you win the League Cup, if you're one of those people that goes, he has to win something this year or he's got to be sacked, and you're saying that because you didn't want Arteta from the beginning, you won't change your mind, etc., etc. Again, you're entitled to feel that way. But then if he does win something, then your argument is gone, isn't it? It falls apart. It completely disappears.
Exactly that.
So what it does is it weeds out the people who aren't coming from the right place. If you're saying that the League Cup, I don't think the League Cup's enough for what it's worth. But that's me because I think that the team is capable and deserves more than that. But if you're saying it just because you want an excuse to, at the end of the season, say Arteta should be sacked, well, if he wins the League Cup, at least that takes that out of the equation, doesn't it? And that argument becomes.
And the thing is, Harry, what I can't do at the same time, right, is say he won the League Cup. He deserves to stay for another 5 years. It's incredible what he's done. That'd be going completely over the top. But what I can do is go, I'm happy for him to go and have another go now because he's installed winning mentality within that side. Yes, I want the Premier League. Yes, I want the Champions League. And yes, I want the FA Cup all above the League Cup. But if the League Cup's the only thing we're going to win, I'd rather take the League Cup and go take Liverpool to the last game of the season. If we go and get the League Cup, he comes fifth, then we can remove him because he's clearly had a bad season, right? But for me, if you're going all the way to game week 38 like we did 2 years ago, and you're just falling short by goal difference or by a point, but you're lifting something, I see that as successful. Now, I live in an era where I celebrated in 93 that League Cup, which nobody else probably did because they all thought it was dusty. Well, I can tell you that Tony Adams didn't, and George Graham didn't, and Kevin Campbell and Ian Wright and Martin Keown did not go, oh, crikey, we've got to go and lift this bloody pot in a minute. That's all right. Sure, I'd rather go home. They all loved it, right? So I don't go to any of those finals going, oh, shall I bother today? No, I'll go and watch the Hollyoaks Omnibus, I think. I can't be bothered to go to that dusty League Cup. Who's going to do that? So I treat those as big because I grew up winning them. Some people don't. They look at it and go, oh, that just gets in the way. Get out of that competition quick so we can go and concentrate on the league or the Champions League. So I understand that the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup do not take priority over the Champions League or the Premier League. But if he wins one of them, I'll be willing to give him another season. Now, this is coming from me, who's not been a fan and probably would have got rid of Arteta a long time ago, right? But there's also an argument to say that ain't enough, Dan. And I wouldn't go, you're deluded. I'd go, fair play, let's replace him. Yeah, that's where I'm at. But go on, Tom. You have a say on this. I know you have a say on it.
Yeah, look, the League Cup's always, for me, it's been a bit denigrated over the years. Like everything around that competition, like the fact that it has like a two-legged semi-final, that becomes a real drain on the players in terms of a season. It's almost like if you get to the semi-final of the League Cup, as we did obviously last season, it almost becomes something of a distraction and an annoyance having to play two semi-finals in that competition. Not only that, but obviously the winner gets the reward of playing in next season's UEFA Conference League as the reward for winning that as well. That obviously has a part to play in kind of how people view it. At the end of the day, I want to see Arsenal win trophies, and I empathise with the perspective of if Arsenal only win the League Cup this season, that'll be seen as something of an underachievement, and I would probably agree with that because I think, as Harry and Simon both point out, we are capable of more. This squad is capable of more. The manager, for me, is capable of more. So I look at all of that and I think, well, I think you should look to target it, and we've got the squad to be able to target it this season. And obviously, it's at a point in the season, if you win it, that it can be a real good springboard for the final, push towards the end of the season. So there is, in no world do I, with this current team, I did in previous seasons, but not with this current team, I'm looking to sacrifice the League Cup at all to further our gains in other competitions. Because frankly, our B team is probably good enough to qualify for the top 4 on its own in this current iteration of the Premier League. If you look at how good our second string squad is. So there's no reason really why we should have any excuse, unless there's, again, like last season, a ridiculous injury crisis. And we have had our fair share of injuries. I think we've had a player or two injured in 6 of the 7 opening Premier League games, which is nuts. But this squad is good enough to be able to compete across all fronts and to take on those competitions and go far in those competitions. And if with 27 injuries, you can reach the semi-finals of 2 cup competitions last season and still finish second, there's no reason why we shouldn't be going further with the current squad that we've got now.
I could not agree more. I think all 4 competitions we should be going into the deep stages of this
100%.
season. I do believe that the squad's good enough. I don't look at a weak link so far. Like, there's players that are obviously not as good as some of our others, but when you look at our 11, it's pretty decent. When you look at the Carabao Cup side, that's the 11 outside of that, I actually do think we've got a very strong side that could go quite far in that competition as well. So that's kind of where I'm at, Harry. Look, let's get a bit of a close with a opinion of what we think will happen this season. We've got Liverpool looking a little bit of a mess at the moment. I know it's hard to say they're a mess because they're a point behind us, but they've obviously had a couple of bad games. Manchester City, I still think, look a little bit vulnerable. Chelsea, I don't see them going for the title, if I'm honest. I just don't think they've got enough squad depth, if I'm honest with you. And I know people laugh at that, but I don't think they have. I don't think their defence or their goalkeeper are going to put them in a title race, in my brutal, honest opinion. I could be wrong. And I don't really see outside of that any of the others going up there with Liverpool, City and Arsenal. Tottenham, no. Man United, absolutely not. Newcastle, I don't think so. So I do think that Liverpool and City and Arsenal could be going for a 3-horse race this season. But I want to get your opinions on it, bruv.
Yeah, I still see it as a 3-horse race. I think there's been a lot of overreaction both ways so far this season. I think, if you go back 3 weeks ago, the title race was over. Liverpool had won it at a canter and Arsenal were nowhere to be seen. You fast forward 2 weeks and Arsenal are now apparently going to win it and are the favourites with the bookmakers. And Liverpool have been completely written off despite just being a point behind. I think, like, people keep saying, you're sitting on the fence. You don't want to commit to an opinion. No, I know better than that. I know better than to sit here and say that Arsenal have won it or that Liverpool have won it or that Man City have won it, because there will be loads and loads of twists and turns over the course of the season. My prediction is that I think we'll have enough to do it this year. That's my prediction. But I've got many predictions wrong in the past. So, you take the predictions with a pinch of salt. But yeah, I just think it's going to be an interesting season. I agree with what Tom said with regards to the cup competitions. There was a time where we probably had to prioritize. We don't now. With the squad that we have, there's no excuse. And, we keep talking about the Carabao Cup and whether that's enough or not. And people were joking about me saying context in the chat earlier on, but the context has changed. And that's why the way I look at the League Cup has changed. We need a trophy now. Whereas before, it was more important, I would argue, for Arsenal to get into the top 4. Well, we're going to get into the top 4 now. So you don't need to worry about that. What you need to worry about is getting that first bit of silverware with this group of players so that we can build on it. You think about the way Jose Mourinho came to England, won that first, created a springboard. Pep Guardiola always took that seriously. Obviously had a squad to be able to rotate and still get through. Yeah, we're all looking at things through a different lens now because times change and things move on. And yeah, I think we'll have a successful season. I do. I'm feeling good about it. But also, I know better than to get carried away, and I know better than to sort of think that something's a foregone conclusion in this league of all leagues. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Listen, I hope you're right, man. And we do have enough. I have my doubts, but I hope that we can, man. I really hope that we can. And look, until this manager can prove me wrong and get across the line, I'm always going to have that in the back of my mind, whether I'm totally convinced that we've got the mentality to do it. But I really hope we have. Simon, how do you see this league shaping up, brother?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm going to go back to that whole context thing, because I was terrified of Liverpool at the start of the season with all the money they'd spent and the players they brought in. I was like, my gosh, if they all come good. What are we going to do? Then you actually watch them. And listen, I think Isak and Wirtz will eventually find their feet. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The amount of times we've seen players struggle, then, they have one good game. You're like, oh, damn, it's just go on a run. But that doesn't change the defensive problem. So that's how you win leagues, isn't it? You identify where the issues are in other teams and you hope that other teams exploit them. I agree with you what you said about City. I don't even know what to make of City. Obviously, they've got a beast in Haaland who does operate in his own stratosphere, but they don't look like the City of 2 seasons ago. They still look like they're rebuilding and trying to figure out what exactly they want to do. I mean, even with Donnarumma coming in, right? Kind of makes you feel like you're going to start lumping it rather than playing out from the back. We don't know. But that's all good stuff. I think that's what you have to do when you're sitting down trying to predict what's going to happen. If you've got a team that looks like they're just going to blitz everyone, and they do, you're like, oh, well, what were we even meant to do? But I don't feel that way. I feel like we got the squad, we got the mentality. Again, right now where we sit, we're in a great position. And if we start beating the teams that have surprised us over the last 2 years, especially 2 seasons ago, when all of a sudden it fell apart during that sort of last 4 or 5 month period, then there is no reason why we can't go on to do anything. And that's why, to me, it's all about where we are on that 38th game. Like, how do we feel as a team? How do we feel as a club? How do we feel as fans? What does the league tell us? And all of that. Because listen, we got to February and we did have a repeat of a couple of seasons ago. I don't think Arteta would make it through the summer. Like, I really don't. I think those loud Arsenal fans would be twice as loud, and especially with the money and the investment in the squad. But I also don't see that happening. I really, really don't. I think at very worst, we are talking last couple of games on a knife edge, feeling sick, feeling terrified. And it sounds ridiculous, but it's a great position to be in because it means you're there. And it means whatever you did in the summer has actually worked out. But yeah, gun to my head, I'll be massively surprised. Champions League is both easier and harder because it's knockout competition. Once you get through, obviously, the crazy league, and anything can happen in those kind of a game. It's harder to win a league. If we didn't win one of them, I'd be surprised. That's where my gut is at the moment. I'm very positive anyway when I go into a season because at the end of the day, football is sport. It's meant to be fun. So if you're not going to have a positive foot forward, I think sometimes we can drag ourselves down. But that's not just based on this idea that I just want to enjoy myself. It's what I see on the pitch, and it's how I've seen us evolve even over the first 7 games. But yeah, one of them I think is I think the best way to put it is it's a fair thing to believe in. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, and we could all be proven wrong and look like idiots. But if you're actually going to work with statistics and what we have at the moment, you can easily make that argument. And it doesn't just feel like you're saying it because you're an Arsenal fan. You actually have facts and statistics to back it up. So, yeah, sitting here now, I would say one of them. One of the big two, for sure. I can definitely see it.
Yeah, what are you saying, Tom? Champions League, Premier League. I always get asked the question, which one do you want? Which is the easiest and hardest to win, man? I'm with the guy. I want the Champions League one with the big ears, as we call it, right? And we never had that, man. We never had the Champions League, and I so want to shut everyone up. But the Premier League would be amazing. How do you see the season shaping up for Arsenal, bruv?
Yeah, look, I think we will in the Premier League. I think that Arsenal will and have got the strength to do it. The context of the other teams at the moment is all we've got to go off. And if you boil that down, at the moment, if you look at the data and the statistics, Arsenal are heavy favourites. I think the bookies have got Arsenal at evens, and the next highest is Liverpool at 3-1. I mean, that's mad, really. Wow. When you look at data, like I think in terms of Opta's Champions League predictions, they've got Arsenal at 18% favourites to win the Champions League. I think next up is Liverpool at 14% and PSG with 13%. So I was doing pieces. I was doing a article the other day on it. That's why I know it off the top of my head.
Nice. But that's very impressive. Otherwise,
no, I did the research before. But yeah, I also think when you look at the man, like people talking about Salah's not on it, City just Haaland, whatever. Just for the record, if City or Liverpool don't win the league this season or the Champions League, just like to say that's a cataclysmic failure for them.
Absolutely, facts.
Absolute They've spent 400. Both of them have spent around 400 million this year on players. Arsenal has spent 100 million quid less than that. If either of those two don't win the league, it should be going down as a cataclysmic failure for both of them to not win the league. Because they shouldn't be. And if Arsenal end up winning it at, a canter, which is a potential option, and I hope is what happens, and is certainly what people are predicting at the moment broadly, that would be one hell of an achievement for Arsenal considering everything else that's gone around us. I know it's really easy to say, oh, you look at how they've started, look at what they've done. But why don't we have the accountability for them? Where's the accountability for their failures and for what they're not doing and for where they're not performing? Go on, Dan. I feel like you're on the edge.
No. I'm listening. I'm good with it. I'm actually with you. Liverpool have got to. You can't have Isak and Florian Wirtz. You can't smash the British transfer record twice in one window and not win the league. Like, that's just not acceptable in my opinion. And in fact, I'd go on further. I actually think they need to do more than what they did last season, which was win the league. I actually think they need to take at least 2 trophies to say this was worth doing. Now, a lot of Liverpool fans will say, "Nah, I'm all right, cheers, mate. I'll just take another league." However, when you look at it, I actually think they won the league last season. They've added 2 fullbacks, the striker everyone wanted, the most sought after attacking midfielder. On top of that, they have to win trophies, in my opinion, as well. Now, it doesn't take away that Arsenal need to, because I think Arsenal absolutely must this season as well. But I don't think it means, well, Arsenal must, everyone else can just relax. It's just all on Arsenal's pressure.
Yeah.
Like, I think there is pressure on Manchester City as well, like rightly so, because Manchester City have, in January of last year, spent around about 250, plus what they spent in the summer as well, on top of an unbelievable side that won the treble and did the 4-peat, right? So they should have pressure as well. So I agree with you, Tom. I actually do.
Yeah, and just on top of that as well, like I'd chat to a few fans, like as well, Arsenal fans are kind of, I think in the mindset, Arsenal have to win the league this season, and they'll say things to me like, well, Liverpool and City have got credit in the bank. They've won recent titles. And I'm like, I don't expect you to keep that energy with Arsenal if we win the league this season. Because the energy should be, if we win the league this season, we go and win the league next season. Because the whole point for me about kind of looking at Arteta as manager and this squad, and why I've not necessarily jumped off the fence of saying I think it's time for him to go, is because I firmly think that where we're going leads to titles in terms of plural, going and stabilizing as a dominant force in English football. That's why I'm sticking with this record that we've got at the moment, sticking with this manager we've got at the moment, is because I think that's where Arsenal are going to go. So I think people undermine their own arguments when they start to give slack to Liverpool and City and say, well, they've won the league last season, they've done this and that and the other. I'm sorry, but I don't get where your standards are really with those teams. If you're saying the standards need to be higher with Arsenal and we need to go and win this and win that and win that, and then you turn around and say, these teams have got credit in the bank, these teams have won trophies, that doesn't fly with me, because I want Arsenal, when they win the league, hopefully this season, to win it the next season. And I won't be slacking off because we'll be like, oh, well, we won it last season, we got credit. No, I want Arsenal to be the dominant force in English football, and that's where I believe we're heading on a track towards. So no, the energy doesn't change just if you win the league. If you win the league, it's brilliant, amazing achievement, give it all the credit it deserves. But then the new season starts, the following campaign, you go for it again. So I'd tell those people, raise your standards, people, because they need to be a bit higher.
Also, as well, like just on the whole expectation point as well, which, listen, I've said it a million times on today's show. I expect us to go and win this year, right? We should go and win this year. But if you rewind to the beginning of the season, who were the favourites? Liverpool were the favourites. If you go back to last season, I think it was Man City. If you go back to the season before, it was Man City again. So, like, we've never been, and again, it's not an excuse, but we've never been the favourites until now. Like, we've fluctuated at points, like when we've had a lead and stuff, and the odds change. But from the outset, we haven't been the favourites, and we weren't even the favourites this season. But we know, because we've watched this team for a number of years now, we've watched them develop, we've watched them go out and recruit really well. We know that we're as good as anybody now, and that we should be there. And that's where the shift has happened for me. I'm not going to talk about previous seasons where I always, in the bottom of my gut, knew that we were short and, 1 or 2 injuries could completely derail us. I don't feel that anymore. So that this has been the shift of a summer for me, where I look at it differently now and I expect it rather than I hope for it. And that's the difference, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting for me to hear from a different side of the coin, because, like, for me, I've been very much, he's got to win or I think he needs to go. And last season, I thought was a disaster. And there has been times where I've looked, and maybe I've been a little bit harsh on Mikel Arteta at times, to be fair, but that's just passion and the way that I feel. But I certainly do feel personally this season that there's no more excuses. I've looked at what Andrea Berta and Kroenke have provided him, looked at the tools that he's been given. I think Liverpool and City fans and pundits alike are agreeing that Arsenal have the best squad. They might not have the best 11, because I don't think we do have a Haaland and I don't think we do have a Salah and a Van Dijk, but I do think that we do have an unbelievable 11 and a brilliant squad. And we do have the depth now. And I look at the bench, guys, and I look at like Ethan Nwaneri and Max Dowman, and we're all like questioning why they're not getting some game time. And it's like, well, you look at the bench, he kind of answers your question, really. Like, it's very, very strong at the moment. Like, the bench is very, very strong. And that's without Madueke, Nkapie, Kai Havertz, and Gabriel Jesus, who were all yet to come back, that we've forgotten about some of them. So for me, I do feel it's like that. And I just think now it's time to deliver. It's time to bring a trophy home. And I hope Arsenal can do it this season. If we don't, I personally would look to replace the manager.